Hey kids, welcome back to week 2 of our podcast, Riding in Cars with Music Teachers. My name is Mr. Walby, and I'll be your host again this week. And today we're going to talk about a mystery in music called time signatures.
What is a time signature?
In today's lesson, we're going to talk about one of the great mysteries in music, the time signature. What is the time signature? How does it work? How does it affect music? And what's the difference between one time signature and another? We're going to get to take a look at that today, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand a little bit more about the time signature. So let's begin. A time signature is basically a musical symbol that tells you how many beats are in a measure, how those beats are divided up, and how you should feel that music when you're reading it. A time signature consists of two numbers. There's the number at the top, and there's another number at the bottom. What makes it so confusing is that the number at the top is a real number. It's a number that tells you how many of something there's going to be. For example, if the number is 4, that means you're going to have four beats of something in each measure. If the number is 3, that means you're going to have 3 beats, or 2 beats, or 6 beats, or 8 beats, or 12 beats. It all depends on what that top number is. However, the bottom number is not a number at all. This instead is a symbol, and it is a symbol that represents what's going to get the beat. For example, if I see a number 4 at the bottom, that is the symbol for a quarter note. Get it? 4 quarters in a dollar, 4 quarter notes in a whole note. So 4 becomes that symbol for the quarter note. Now if I have the numbers 4, 4, that means I'm going to see 4 beats of quarter notes in each measure. So that could be something as simple as ta, 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 ta. Or it could be something like to-wee, ti-ti-ta, to-wee, ti-ti-ta. Both represent 4 beats of quarter notes in each measure. Now if I change the bottom number, I'll change what gets the beat. For example, if I change that bottom number to a 2, that is the symbol for the half note. That means we're going to get, right now it looks like, 4 half notes in each measure. I could change the top number, however, to 2. That means I'll have 2 half notes in each measure. It's almost like 4, 4, but now we're going to count it as 2, 2. Or I could change that top number to 3, also a very common time signature, to have 3, 2. That means I'm going to have 3 half notes in each measure. And that changes the way the music feels, it changes the way that we count it. I could possibly have a 1 at the bottom. That would be the symbol for a whole note, but we rarely ever see that. Instead, there is another number that we see much more often, and that is the number 8. 8 represents the 8th note. So if we see the 8, that means each 8th note is going to get a beat. Some of the most common time signatures for this could be to have a 6 on the top, so we have something called 6/8, meaning that we have 6 eighth notes in each measure, or at least the equivalent of 6 eighth notes in each measure. There are a few other numbers that we could use that we rarely ever see. We could also have a 16 at the bottom. That would mean that our 16th notes get the beat. Or in the most rare cases, I believe there's a piece by Beethoven that uses this, but I've hardly ever seen it, the number 32. There could be 32 at the bottom. What do you think 32 would represent? Anyone out there? The 32nd note. Now, if you can see, you may notice a pattern in this. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Could anybody think of another number that could fall in there? We can think about that. But what I will say is that not every number can be at the bottom of a time signature. I can have the number 1, 2, 4, 6. Nope. I can have the number 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, maybe 32. But I'll never ever see on the bottom of my time signature the number 3, the number 5, or 6, or 7, or 9, 10, or 11. None of those numbers are a symbol for one of our musical symbols, so we'll never actually see those numbers at the bottom. We could see those numbers at the top because that tells us how many beats are in a measure, but we'll never see them at the bottom of the time signature because they are not symbols. So now that we know how the time signature works, let's take a look at some popular time signatures and how they affect the music. Probably the three most common time signatures out there are 4/4, 3/4, or 6/8. Each one of them are different and they affect the music in a different way. So let's take a look at 4/4. And we've got a video for that. You may not know all the rhythms in this video, and if not, don't worry, you may be able to figure them out along the way. But what I really want you to do is get that feeling of 4/4, what it's like to count 4 beats in each measure, and then we're going to look at some other time signatures and how they change the music as well. So, let's watch. How did you do? Did you know all the rhythms in there? I hope so. But if not, don't worry, you'll learn those rhythms in time. But what I really hope is that you notice that there were 4 beats in each measure, just like we had 4 boxes. Each box represented that beat. Now what I want you to do is to look now at 3/4, and the first thing you're going to notice is we don't have 4 boxes for each measure. Instead now, we're only going to have 3 boxes. That's really going to change the feeling of the music. So as you watch, feel free to count and play along. Now for our last time signature I want to talk about today, 6/8. You're going to notice that this one feels a lot different from the others. The big difference is going to be that bottom number of our time signature. Instead of using 4, we're going to replace that with the number 8. But remember, these aren't real numbers. These numbers are symbols. They represent something else. So when I had the 4, that represented the quarter note. And when I replace that with the 8, 8 represents the 8th note. Since I'm in 6/8, that means I'm going to have 6 8th notes in each measure. But you'll notice I don't count it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's typically not how we count 6/8. Instead, we would like something more like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is more of a natural way of counting 6/8, and that's typically how musicians will count it. But in the video you'll notice I take it a step further, and I don't even count it like that. Instead, I do something like 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. And so each one of those little sounds, that is an 8th note that we're counting. But instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which can be too overly bearing, I will just use this simplified system of 1 and a 2 and a. You may have another system that you use, and if you use another system, that is perfectly good too, because in the end, it's all about how the music sounds. So let's take a look at this video to give you an idea of how 6/8 sounds. Alright, so in the last phase of today's lesson, I want to get into comparing these time signatures to each other so that we can begin to tell a little bit better with our ears whether something is in 4/4 or 3/4 or possibly 6/8 and how that's going to feel. And for this, I'm going to use our ukulele. Let's begin with 4/4. If I'm playing something in 4/4, it may sound like this. And you say to yourself, how do I even know this is in 4/4? The answer is simple. Can you count to 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. What would it be in 3/4? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 568. Now 468. It's going to be hard for me to count all 6 numbers and play at the same time. My brain's just not that fast. So I'll just go da 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 da. And you can imagine that as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or however you want to imagine. But it's going to feel like this. Da 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 da. Now that we've heard our 3 examples of 4/4, 3/4, and 6/8, let's see if I can play them and you can tell me which is which. Here we go. Were you able to get them all right? If not, just watch the video again and try again, and I bet the second time around you'll probably get them right. There weren't very many questions. Alright kids, well that's all the time I've got for today. I hope you were able to learn a little bit more about time signatures, at least to give you an idea of what the time signature is and how it works. You don't really have to understand everything about the time signature because that is such a big thing. Even myself, I'm still learning more about the time signature and how it relates to music. It's something that we grow into and we learn with experience. But hopefully today you can take away a little bit better understanding of how the time signature works. And every time you listen to music, you can think to yourself, what time signature am I listening to? And especially as you perform music and you learn new songs to sing or to play, always look at that time signature and think about that, because that's a relationship for you as a musician to the music. And the stronger your relationship to the time signature becomes, the more you will understand it and the better of a musician you will become. So, I hope this helps, and I will see you next time. Have a great week and stay healthy. Bye-bye.